welcome to the AWS studio. I'm Ruben Mertz, Principal Solutions Architect at AWS, and we are here today with Swisscom to talk about cloud adoption and cloud transformation. Josua, good morning. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself, your role, and your company?
Okay, yeah, I'm Josua Hiller. I'm a product manager for the mobile data service at Swisscom, so I'm basically in the value stream of Mark. I'm very passionate about DevOps principles as well to improve cloud-native technology for telco workload. So I'm trying to push there the adoption to move forward for the automation towards that we can benefit of faster deployments and more automated deploy new services.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Duesener. I'm heading mobile networks, mobile products and services, as well as the enterprise connectivity and communication business at Swisscom.
All right. Okay, so one reason I really wanted to talk to the two of you is because both of you want to transform. Both of you want to move things forward. Mark, you're very vocal about telco to techco transformation, and Josh, you've been talking about cloud-native transformation and automation. I want both of you to tell me what does that transformation means, and what do you want to achieve? What are your targets? Mark, can you start?
So I think principally I believe that in the past, telecommunications has been a boxes business, right? And it's turning itself now more and more into a software business. So the telco to techco transformation principally is using software principles and applying it to network problems that we face. The main benefits that I see is mainly in how we operate. So the operational model that we're in is completely different tomorrow, and it's changing on its way right now. And then, as with any transformation, it's less about technology in the end, it's more about the people.
Right. You've said somewhere you want everyone to become a software engineer. We'll talk about this afterwards. Josh, what's your take on this?
So maybe to add there, it's also, we had a culture of 20 years to evolve from 2G to 3G to 4G. There was always, of course, technology changes, but now with moving towards cloud and there also the cloud-native technology, it's really another step we had so far not seen in the telco industry. So it's something, if we do this right, we can benefit of way better operational costs. There I think it's very important for us as Swisscom that we are moving in a direction where or let's say it this way, today we spend a lot of time just on lifecycle tasks, and there we want to reduce this. And there I see a huge potential where we can leverage cloud-native technology to get rid of these mundane, repetitive tasks, which is very important if we want to invest way more into innovation topics, that we don't spend our time in basically upgrading, life-cycling our network workloads. And with cloud-native technology, there are now capability in the automation area which really can help us to push towards an environment where we don't spend our time on lifecycle tasks, where we really can invest to build new features, new services for our customers.
Okay, so this is really about taking care of all of the heavy lifting, so that you can focus on what you really want to produce and new products and new features. Okay, so we have the chance, the privilege to be a strategic partners of yours. Can you tell us a bit? I mean, you've hinted at that, I think, already, but can you tell us more about the why?
When we started to partner, right, I think what I noticed in the beginning was people thought, okay, we're now talking about infrastructure, private cloud, public cloud, whereas working with you is less about the infrastructure. There's an infrastructure part that is of interest, obviously, but working with you as a partner is much more about how do we tap into that different perspective, so the techco part, so to say, and how we can make use of the innovation ecosystem that AWS provides. and using that for our principles, for our challenges that we have. And I think that is the part, right? As I've said, transformation is about people. And in order to get people transformed, you need to inspire them. And you're a wonderful partner to help us to inspire ourselves and our people.
Okay, thank you. So we started that collaboration in the telco space with the demonstration last year here at Mobile Congress, deploying a commercial 5G core on AWS in an hybrid fashion. What have you learned from this? Joshua?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, so there we learned a lot. Basically, it's really to move from the existing way of deploying network functions towards everything as code. That's very important as we can start to deploy and upgrade our software way faster and do it very repetitive, always the same time. Today, or few years ago, we still worked with notepad files and which are stored on computer on the different workstation of our employees. And there then they did the upgrades using this information to push the configuration towards the node. And from how AWS is doing it, we could learn a lot how we better integrate this in a way we start now to using. We started to use this GitOps way on deploying network function, which really help us to make our way, how we deploy it, how we think about lifecycle management, way more simple and repetitive, that we don't do it sometimes this way and sometimes the other way. So if we change something, we put it into code, and from there we deploy it to dev, to staging or integration, and then to production, which is then a natural flow and very clear processes which help us to increase the stability and resiliency in the end.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if I can add, I think what we did is what I just said, right? We inspired ourselves in a way, jointly with you. I mean, the team on our side who did that were 3 people. And 3 people demonstrated that instead of weeks for deploying a packet core, it took hours. And so what we were preaching and telling techco transformation is and will be about was just demonstrated. Now we need to, let's say, harden it and scale it. So it was a POC. Nevertheless, we could demonstrate that what we were talking about and believing is feasible. And I think that is the main message out of this POC that we did last year.
All right. Yeah. So from the cloud, looking away from the infrastructure, we went into automation. Okay. Now we often talk about the value of the cloud, and we've been coming with, I think, 3 terms, right? Automation, elasticity, and AI. Now looking forward, how do we work together to start adopting those principles, and what are we doing to transform, right? To start that transformation. And I would like you to talk first, maybe technical, and then let's talk about the people.
I think there is a huge opportunity there. Also, we have what we see today. It's like this network function. They still have a quite high complexity, and this is still. We see this complexity is still growing further, especially as 3GPP is adding standard after standard to add new capability, which maybe is not always so easy to solve with the technology we have. So there is a complexity we need to get somehow able to be able to work with our engineers we have in Swisscom. And there I think with AI and the support of machine learning, we can really tap into an ecosystem which help us to get the capability to keep this complexity in check with what we are doing in our daily work. So yeah, the amount of network functions is growing and growing. We're adding new capability. So for a single person, it's almost not anymore feasible to know everything, and there we need support from intelligent tools which helping us to understand exactly where we maybe have an issue. Maybe there we have a wrong configuration. We wouldn't see without if the capability of AI to analyze a huge amount of data and then also do correlations on impact it could have to our running production system. And there I think there is a huge potential which I'm very keen to explore together with AWS.
Okay, so it's using the cloud to keep the complexity in check, right?
Yeah.
And essentially to do, I think you guys say you want to do more with less, right? So this is where it's coming, and keeping highly reliable network.
Maybe if I may add, you mentioned elasticity, right? So I think there are multiple dimensions of elasticity in play here. So we have the infrastructure part, so the classical, what you would think about when you think about elasticity. I mean, when we look at our daily pattern of traffic, right, there's a factor of 8 in between. Oh. So our on-prem cloud is now dimensioned for the factor of 8, which is economically and ecologically not useful. So over time, how can we make use of public cloud, which is all about pay-per-use, and how we can better, let's say, make use of resources in that context, or think about testing, think about canary deployment. So software principles that we didn't apply in the past. We still had a lab, and we often failed that because something was running in the lab, it didn't work out in production, right? So how do we change these principles? Another perspective of elasticity. And I think this is what we're really looking into. Mm-hmm. I strongly believe this will benefit us a lot, because it's much closer, and the faster you can deploy, I think that's something people sometimes don't understand, the higher the quality is, because the increment of deploying is getting much smaller, and therefore the probability of doing something wrong is going smaller as well.
Okay, thank you. Now let's get back to the most important, the people. You said you want everyone to become a software engineer. How do you get there, or maybe why, and then how do you move your organization forward?
So I start with the latter one. How did we move? When I joined Swisscom, we started this transformation, right? But before talking about transformation, we talked about people. So the first step in the transformation was all about launching a big upskilling program, which we call People Journeys. And there we redefined the roles. So we said, instead of, as in the past, you need to know these and these 3 GPP standards, we said you need to have that level of cloud understanding, that level of software knowledge to fulfill that role. And obviously, most of them didn't. And we said, please spend 5 to 10% of your time to get ahead. So that is laying the fundament, right? And then the other part is, whenever we hired new people, we looked for new skills. So changing or adding new skills to the teams, because I believe you learn on the job in the end, and you learn by having someone next to your side who's good at what you're not good at, and vice versa. So what I noticed when we started this journey, and you were part of that team, right? We had people with a lot of experience in telecommunications and people with software skills sitting side by side and doing pair programming. That was exciting. So now the why, as I've said, we're moving away from a box business into a software business. So not everybody, we will not develop all the network functions ourselves. So not everybody needs to program, but adhering to software principles. For example, we introduced SRE, so site reliability engineering, as a principle to do operations. And this is all about using software principles and applying it to operations.
What is the latest new skills that you've acquired, Josh? I know it's a tricky question.
Mainly now I'm focusing on understanding all these terms around Gen AI and LLMs, and so it's also for me quite a challenge to learn this, because it's a very broad spectrum and it goes from machine learning to different AI capabilities in the end, which it's not only to talk about them, but also for me as well to technically understand what's possible. I also always want to see where we can benefit as Swisscom from such technologies, which is very important to, in the end, for our customers, so we can provide them better services and use the new technologies in the end. So yeah, I think mainly the last few months I'm reading a lot about this Gen AI, or generally artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Okay. What's your key takeaway for other telco operators here that want to transform, that want to adopt AI, elasticity? What would you tell them to start with, or where to begin with?
I think first of all, you need to have a clear perspective what is the role you want to play in the operational model, right? So there are operators, and that's a good position. Let's say we want someone to operate our network for us. That's a different perspective than if you say, okay, we believe that differentiation, that network quality, customer experience is a key differentiating factor that we need. And therefore, I need to be involved. And if you think on the latter one, I think we need to, let's say, gain back some knowledge, some strategic power that we lost over the past, right? System integration knowledge, software skills, because the environment is getting more complex, and the only way to manage that is by having the right skills in place.
Okay. Josh, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think it's not only about that we need to increase our workforce, it's also to have the right skills in the end, that we now move more and more in this software thinking, and there also it's important for other operators to understand that if you want to maintain like a automation pipeline for the whole CI/CD, for the network function, and in the end for the whole service, so there you need understanding how you need to introduce best practices and how this is then helping you to build faster or push faster software to production. In the end, that really helps also the stability, and in the end, the resiliency of your service. And there, I think also what we see in the last few weeks or months with huge outages, it's important that moving forward, where operators are even more critical for life-depending services, in the end, that they increase stability or resiliency for their services they provide to the customer. So it's very important already to have this in mind when starting to build up the automation pipeline to build your network functions.
And maybe if I add something, I think it's an ecosystem that we're all in, and that is a big opportunity. So changing ourselves is something, as we already said, right? We're doing with partners, because that's getting us faster. So working with you guys, but also working with other peers who have similar interests and similar journeys ahead and are on the same path, and having exchange, I think that is helping a lot to get transformation speeding up.
Okay. Josua, Mark, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to see what's coming together this year. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben.